Now, I opened the show talking about Elon on with Bret Baier and some members of the DOGE team last night. And, you know, I did wonder in watching it, why didn't we see this earlier? These guys are amazing. Like, this is exactly, we should all be on our hands and knees at night thanking God that men, and I presume there are women too, they weren't on the set last night, are willing to take time off from their real jobs and real lives and do this for us. They were all really just public servants. Go ahead, Sean.
But to your point, the caliber of these people, when he was talking about, when Bret Baier was telling him, so you co-founded Airbnb, you're the CFO of Morgan Stanley. The credentials of these people, we talked about this a little on the morning meeting this morning, that it was the illumination of just it wasn't like, you know, finding some buried treasure. The guy was like, yeah, we found out that the Department of HHS has 40 CFOs. 40 CIOs, Chief Information Officer. There are 4.6 million government credit cards and 2.1 million employees. There's obvious things that are like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't compute. 8,000 American federal workers can retire in a given month because that's all the system can handle, because it has to take a manila envelope going down a mine. That's how many envelopes can go down in a month. That's insane. And the idea that they were talking about utilizing common sense, technology, reforms, efficiencies to allow the government to run better. And even Elon, when it came to Social Security, made it very clear that 40% of the people who call the Social Security hotlines were fraudsters trying to steal the money of American retirees. And what they're trying to do is put processes in place to protect the American consumer from fraud. It's something that I agree with you. I was like, where has this been? I wanted to hear this for the last 70 days. And I finally am here. I was excited. I was fired up. I hope they do more, because I think that the more people hear about not only what's really goes on in government, but how it's being corrected, the more support DOGE and Elon will get.
Here's just a little bit. You mentioned this in your last answer of Joe Gebbia, the Airbnb co-founder and DOGE Digital Retirement Project guy. Here he is, Satan.
Now picture this. This giant cave has 22,000 filing cabinets, stacked 10 high to house 400 million pieces of paper. It's a process that started in the 1950s and largely hasn't changed in the last 70 years. And so as we dug into it, we found retirement cases that had so much paper, they had to fit it on a shipping pallet. So the process takes many months, and we're going to make it just many days.
Will it be digitized, or how?
Absolutely. So this will be an online digital process that will take just a few days at most. And I really think, it's an injustice to civil servants who are subjected to these processes that are older than the age of half the people watching your show tonight. So we really believe that the government can have an Apple Store-like experience, beautifully designed, great user experience, modern systems.
He said that we're actually at the point where we have to train federal employees on how to retire. They have to go through a training.
It's so embarrassing.
I know. It is embarrassing. Mark, what American sitting at home is going to have any reaction to that other than, what?
It's great to have private sector people in the government who, my favorite moments was when Bret was asking them their motivation for doing it. And one of them said he's got 4 kids and he doesn't want the country to decline for his kids. They're an impressive group. And, even Democrats, most Democrats will say, yeah, there's inefficiencies in the federal government. But this is an attempt to get rid of them. We talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. This is, you could call it waste, but it's really just inefficiency. And it's really not having the will to use the ingenuity of the private sector up until now to try to change these things. Al Gore talked about reinventing government, but that was in the dawn of the digital age. There's so much more that can be done now using digital stuff. And this is, again, as Sean said a couple times, this is such an impressive group from the private sector. I just hope that they're adhering to guidelines. And I just hope that they don't get shackled. They do need to move fast for all the reasons that this plan was launched.
in my head, like the way they were being described by the media, it was like I pictured like these dope smoking, hacky sack kicking, beanie wearing, foggy
tie-dye shirts. Put them in tie-dye shirts.
I see these guys.
Were they wearing Crocs or Birkenstocks in your mind? I couldn't get
sandals.
I never got down below the ankle in picturing them, but I could smell the aroma. I had a perceived smell. They're not that at all. These are actually really accomplished, badass professional guys who are super articulate, on top of their game. Now, I'm sure they sent their best for the Bret Baier interview. There may be guys who better match my description. But, chief among them was Elon with some very interesting facts of his own. Here's one here that somebody mentioned, but it's not for.
The sheer amount of waste and fraud in the government. It is astonishing. It's mind-blowing. We routinely encounter wastes of $1 billion or more, casually. For example, like the simple survey that was literally 10-question survey that you could do with SurveyMonkey, cost you about $10,000, was the government was being charged almost $1 billion for that.
For just the survey?
$1 billion for a simple online survey, do you like the national park? And then there appeared to be no feedback loop for what would be done with that survey. So the survey would just go into nothing. It was like insane.
Casually. And you know what? What's so devastating about that, Sean, is it's true.
I know. I've been in the military for 26 years, in and out of government. I mean, it's finally good hearing someone articulate what I've known to be the case for decades.
Yeah, and just be honest about it. That's like the Social Security thing. Everybody can understand that too. Why are we sending Social Security checks to people who appear to be 120 or an infant, which is what Elon was saying. He was like, we're sending checks to infants. And he was explaining exactly how they do the fraud. Someone has a baby and they steal their own child's Social Security number and they use it to get some sort of payout from the federal government, and they ruin that child's credit because they just don't give a damn. Here is Steve Davis, who was called the CEO of DOGE, though he didn't seem totally comfortable with that label, speaking to some of that issue in SOT 6.
No, the amount of issues that were with the Social Security system are enormous. As an example, there are over 15 million people that are over the age of 120 that are marked as alive in the Social Security system.
And that's an accurate figure.
Yes. Correct.
15 million.
Correct. This has been something that's been identified as a problem, again, pre-existing problems since 2008 at least, from an IG report. So there were some great people working at the Social Security Administration that found this, 2008, and nothing was done. And so 15 to 20 million Social Security numbers that were clearly fraudulent were floating around that can be used only for bad intentions. There'd be no way to use those for good intentions. And so one of the things the DOGE team is doing is carefully and very methodically looking at those and making sure that any fraudulent ones are eliminated.
Well, that is shocking, but also not. And here's my question. I'm going to play one more shot on Social Security, Dan, but this question's coming to you on how are the Democrats going to object to this? Everybody knows what a money suck Social Security is, along with Medicare/Medicaid. We all know that. We all know we're not going to make a lot of progress, if any, on our national debt unless we get honest about what's happening there. Nobody wants us to touch the retirement age. We get it. It's political poison. But this stuff we can do. We can do. But the Democrats are saying no. No to DOGE, no to Elon. He's evil. Here's the second soundbite on Social Security with a guy named Aram Moghadassi. He's a DOGE engineer.
I'll say the two improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protect them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters.
40%?
That's right. Almost half.
Yes, and they steal people's Social Security is what happens. Is they call in, they say they claim to be a retiree, then they convince the Social Security person on the phone to change where the money's flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster.
In 67 days, they figured all of this out, Dan. Why would the Democrats stand in the way of these fixes?
So I think the important thing for the party is they need to split what is common sense from what is questionable. I think what they're talking about here, and I actually saw this morning too, they're talking about trying to upgrade the Social Security software and computer systems, which are literally decades old, just because they haven't received the funding. They want to migrate it to a new platform. Where they're trying to do stuff like stop fraud, I ran government relations for H&R Block. And I know a lot about the IRS and fraud. And they're absolutely right. It's the Russian mob. It's all sorts of people who try to steal your Social Security, file returns, falsely before you do and get your refund. And but by the time you realize what happened, it's too late. Where they're trying to do that, we should say that is good. It will also give us credibility with the public for when we say time out. This might be objectionable. And one of those things is, I know we all say, okay, cutting phone service and making you have to come in makes sense to try to deal with fraud. Sure, if I live in New York City, I can walk down to the Social Security Administration or take the subway or a bus. In lots of parts of this country, it is hundreds of miles to reach it. And the elderly, it's hard. And some of them don't drive. They have medical issues that makes movement challenging. And so when Democrats say, wait a second, you need to offer those telephone services. There has to be a way for them to verify and get through. That is where I think the public will say, yeah, okay, all right. But if all we do is always scream no and everything, it's a huge problem. And I actually thought, look, we're making some headway, we Democrats, with Elon's favorabilities coming down. But to your point, Megyn, those were real people. They were uncomfortable. They looked anxious. There's empathy and sympathy as they talked, because they're just regular, real people trying to help.
You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat's already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy's already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice, as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA and physical gold for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the number 989898. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, just text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.